So tonight is conversation, more a conversation than it says a presentation. But the thing is, we don't know really. We don't know how to be able to communicate this to top management. So therefore, we are opening a conversation, and we started last night with we have a network group around our company, and we had this discussion with a couple of presenters last night. And just to, for those of you who are new, our name is Agile Lean House. We're based in Denmark, but we're international, and we have a few of the network members here. Robert from Czech Republic, Paul from US, and Christian from Norway, etc. I probably forgot some, and what we do is that we try to help people get more value out of their efforts. And we do it by educating, helping them have assistant coaching, if you will, on site, and we develop tools for helping people primarily with everything agile and lean. It all started with Scrum, and that's still quite a significant thing. But for now, with this evening here, let's have an opening gambit. And some of you probably recognize who this is, Benjamin Franklin. He was brought to our attention from John Peterson, one of our network members, who I think actually got ill for this evening. He was one of the founding fathers. And there is a lot of quotes accredited to him. Not all of them are true, but here's one that should really be true, and which also should resonate with what we do. And he says, "Do you love life? Then do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of." So the objective is, of course, that in organizations we do not squander time, or in fact any other resource, but that's good enough for a start. I'd like you, just as a check-in here, just to sort of concentrate on what we're doing. Think about this quote here from Benjamin Franklin and reflect a little bit. "Those who govern, having much business on their hands, do not generally like to take the trouble of considering and carrying into execution new projects. The best public measures are therefore seldom adopted from previous wisdom, but forced by the occasion." So think about that for a few seconds, and if you have something to say to it, and then we'll just see if anybody has some reflections on it. So anybody has some input? Did that provoke some thinking? Is it true? Or was that only in the 18th century?
I have a small reflection.
Yeah.
In Denmark, we actually have a book about what we call so to work.
Yeah.
That put focus on a lot of work in companies that does not give any value for the customers. It's just moving papers and a lot of meetings, but there's not really any output.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that's true. Anti-lean, a sort of reverse pattern. But okay, anybody else? Let's leave it like that. And I think it's true to say that generally people in top management are also too busy to really get involved in changing. I have been trying for several years to break into the management sphere, so to say, and get them interested in everything we do with Agile and Lean, and transform the whole organization to something that is more effective, brings more value, more responsive. But yeah, so the topic is how to present the value of an Agile Lean organization to top leadership. Why should they do it? Here's agenda, but let's quickly jump further on for that. We will generally just look at what is the problem and the objectives. Or at least I can say I am really struggling with breaking into the leadership domain. Maybe because I was never a celebrity or a fancy CEO with multi-million-dollar salary or something like that. That could be. That is entirely possible. But I often feel that anything about Agile, Scrum, and Lean is still a concept for the lower level, the downstairs. And upstairs, none of then we have, then it's real business. Then we do other things. Then we have budgets and we have other things we are concerned with. But it's fine for those people down there. And it really boils down to that a lot of the time, I think people upstairs believe this is about being more efficient downstairs, working harder in a way. And sometimes it's really like two conflicting worldview. Recently, I was together with a CEO of a company, and we had an opportunity, and we were sort of stuck with each other. So he had to listen to me a little bit, and but it was like talking to a Martian. What are you talking about? So let's try tonight and open this discussion. Maybe we'll have more discussions as we move on. Let's see how interested you are in it. But we need to find some solutions to this problem here. What kind of people is it we talk to? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then those of us who work on getting support for change, either internally or some of us that sell services that should help them, can we agree on a primary value proposition for each category of those leaders? Can we agree on some primary blockers that may prevent them from doing it? And can we agree on a line of argument that how could we conduct a conversation so that we might persuade them? And then try to identify the lost cases where there's little chance of dialogue so that we quickly can get onto something with more chance of actually coming through. If it is true that it's different worldviews, how do you argue with people who just have a different fundamental worldview? Can we script it? Can we avoid just digging deeper trenches? Because today, both politically and also if you on LinkedIn, people are actually just digging deeper trenches, and that's not helpful. We are here, all of us, and we have to sometimes find a way together. Can we get them interested in a dialogue? What would make them take us seriously? And that's you, Robert, isn't it?
Yep, I can take that away if you like.
Yes, share the screen.
Exactly. I will start sharing my screen, and I hope you will see that. So let me take it here. And as Kurt said, we had a brilliant event yesterday for our internal network with hosts trying to kind of enlighten us on their view on the topic of how to talk to management. And fun thing is that we chose deliberately hosts from different areas. There was a professor from academia. There was a seasoned consultant from a big name company from PwC. And there was a former manager and even a current high top manager. And they all came up with very similar points, and they took a very similar stance. So now let me kind of translate to you what we learned yesterday and what you can take away with you when you're gonna talk to the top managers trying to sell agility in your teams. So there has been, let's say, 4 main takeaways, and I hope the presentation is gonna work. Yeah. So the first thing is we need to ask ourselves, what is that the Agile actually brings to the table? And that's what the people you are talking to, you're going to be talking to, are asking. And you need to be able to answer that question strictly and seriously. We need to realize that these days, the sustainability is a challenge. And it's not just like a buzzword thingy that we talk about. It's really a challenge that everybody wants to tackle. And it's not only sustainability on a level of environment. This is the popular topic. This is the buzzword, but there are other aspects to that I would like to talk about.
I didn't hear the words you were saying. I heard you saying words. Vad för något? Vann från vår bil.
Thank you for alerting me. Why didn't you tell me before? Sorry for that. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
It was possible to hear you before, so.
Good. So let me try to repeat what I said if I was not heard before. So we had, as Kurt said, we had an event yesterday with few guests that were trying. Sorry?
Var är det när du kom?
Someone needs to mute Gilb's mic.
Var skulle det vara?
This one.
Yeah, I think you were heard, but there was someone unmuted.
Okay, so I was heard, so I don't need to repeat myself. Okay, so just to back up a little bit, key takeaways from the discussion. What do we bring to the table? The sustainability is there. One point that really resonated was that it will get worse before it gets better. That's something we need to be able to vocalize, that this is not, the agility is not a silver bullet that will save everybody in a jiffy. It will be hard. The transformation is going to be hard. And the last point I want to mention, and I will mention all of these in a detail in a brief, was really resonating with me, and this is this one. It's all about the money. So let me dive a little bit deeper on those points. So what is that the Agile brings to the table? And there has been 3 categories mentioned by, let me zoom in, by Jan Fredrik from PwC Norway. And he said that we have basically 3 categories what agility may mean, and those are like the first one there, that's it's acknowledged that agility or Agile, Scrum, whatever, brings to the table, and it's you are faster to the market. Everybody acknowledges that this is the case. We have a better customer satisfaction, and we have responsiveness. Agility in the name, you know, adaptivity, responsiveness, that's what it brings to the table. And it seems like the market and the managers are already recognizing and acknowledging that. So we don't have to necessarily waste our time talking to these points. And there is increased productivity. But there are also things that are still not acknowledged, and things we have to open up when talking to the higher management. And that is the continuous learning and improvement. We are now talking about a learning organization, that a Scrum is not a framework for software development per se, but is rather a learning framework that will allow you to learn a lot via making good software. And that is not acknowledged. We have to make these points very clearly. There is a lot of employee satisfaction and another level of commitment. If you construct the teams right, if you give them the right if you give them goals and something to pursue, if you allow them the pride of craftsmanship, then there will be a higher employee satisfaction and commitment. And Scrum and Agile frameworks are built around those things. And there is a high quality at the end. You can just recall a basic concept of definition of done on the sprint. So if you track your quality sprint by sprint, there will be a higher quality. These are things that are not yet commonly acknowledged among the managers. And something that is actually here, from my point of view, from Czech Republic, it's already being recognized, but not worldwide, as attracting talent. You know that these days is very hard to maintain talent. You've all heard about quiet quitting. So agility brings to the table your ability and company's ability to retain and attract talent. So those are the points we might bring up when talking to CEOs. And yeah, though there are some things that are just super unrealistic that they expect, and we have to talk openly about those. So those are the points what agility brings to the table from John. There was another host who talked a little bit about this point, and I believe it's worth pinpointing this presentation, this article he wrote. And John was mentioning about what actually Agile is to the real core, that it's practice, and we have to, when talking and selling to the CEOs, really speak from we've practiced that and we've did this and we will do this, helping others to do that. So that is really a point that is worth taking to the core, because if you're not doing what you're trying to preach, you know, the Agile Manifesto starts that we uncover better ways of doing software and helping others to do that. That's really a good point, because once you're talking just from a pure theory, you will miss the conversation. Your elevator pitch can be as top as you can imagine, but if it comes from theory, everybody will just not listen to you. So we need to make things more pragmatic. You know, we have to engage with the other groups, not only software. We're not talking about transforming our software department to Scrum or something like that. We were talking about the whole company transformation and the benefits that will bring to you. That's the conversation we should have with these managers. The other point from those 4 initial points I mentioned was sustainability and complexity. And that was the point from the academia scene from Professor Lumomir. He was very nicely talking about the sustainability, not only in the sense of the environment, we all hear that, it's all around the news, but also a sustainable pace in development. And it's very crucial to mention that what agility brings is not high performance, is not high productivity, but it's a sustainable pace of improvement. And that sustainable pace of improvement will eventually bring high productivity and these kind of things. But it's kind of a side effect of that. So coming clean with this, that we want to bring, what Agile brings to the table is the sustainability and work-life balance. It will bring people together because it's a powerful goal. So we'll be able to attract, again, the point of attracting people, the point of giving them the goal to pursue. And when we work in a complex space, and we do work in a complex space and solving complex problems, it really is necessary that everybody is thinking. It's not top-down thinking, telling you what to do. It's everybody involved is thinking, and you cannot have that without a true team and people really working together. So that was the points from the sustainability and complexity. Jan also mentioned another point that's really worth thinking about. And when you're talking to somebody who wants to buy Scrum, let's say, you know, they want to hire you, they want to transform, usually the expectations are kind of high because it has a name, it's almost become a buzzword. So everybody expects a lot, but we have to be adamant in saying that it will get worse before it gets better. The learning curve is obvious, and the predictability we once had will get down at the beginning. But through the learning, if we survive the key challenges, we will get the predictability higher and higher and higher. That is the message we need to transfer to everybody we talk to, because the expectations might be just getting things better, but there are only few who realize that it's painful, and as all transformations, it's going to be painful. So it will get worse before it gets better. That's the message to take. And last, it's all about the money. I don't know if you know the song from 90s. It's all about the money. It's all about the dum 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 dum. It's really spot on. Everybody you want to talk to, the managers really keep in mind the money part. Everything costs money. Everything should bring some money or save some money, bring new business, avoid failure, etc., etc. So this aspect should be maybe even the first one we mention in our talks to management, because at the end of the day, it's not only about the money, but about the person we are talking to. And I kind of gave a segue to Kurt's part. Kurt, if you want to take this away, because it's really about people. And if we try to sell to people, we need to know what people are we talking to. Kurt, it's yours. And now you are muted, Kurt.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Okay, and what we can pick up on here is that, yeah, it's all about the money. Or I'm older than Robert, so I'm more into the 80s and Cyndi Lauper and money changes everything. But the same deal, really. That's what is important, that these people has as it is their responsibility. So we cannot get around this. No matter how idealistic we are and how good we think it'll be in other areas, the money has to be there. The business value has to be there. So we're going to now take a little opportunity for you to discuss. We'll put you out in some breakout rooms and hope you will participate there. And first of all, I'll give you this one as an inspiration. And as you know, all models are wrong, but some are useful. So here's a way of saying, oh, maybe there are 4 kinds of executives we talk to. It could, of course, have been 4 others, and it could be 5 or 6, but let's just think about these. There are those executives that are totally focused on the money part. And what's characterizing them? Return on investment, net present value, save cost, sell metrics, KPI compliance, predictability, budgets. And then there are some executives that really just want to stay out of trouble. And they are hiding behind middle managers, sometimes avoiding new initiatives. Let me just share the screen so that I have it now. Here we go. Surrounded by like-minded people, excuses, opacity, non-transparent bureaucracy. There's a dark side sometimes. There are quite a significant percentage of people who are in it for the power, one way or another. And then there are some people that are very focused on action. And what I'd like to now in the groups we're going to put you out into, if you want to have a look at these things here, and I will I will send this, let's see, in the chat, if I can locate that. to everyone. Here are a couple of links where you can click and you can see this one. Just if you want to have that as an inspiration, I'd like you in your group to just pick one of those categories here, or maybe invent a new one if you think that's really much better, and then think about the inspiration for talking to leadership. What is it? What is it we want to obtain? The objectives. What are the things we want to prevent? What are the potential blockers for this kind of person? What are the things we can do to obtain the things we have over here? What are the strategies we have for getting an impact on the objectives? Does that make sense to you? You have the links now, and please grab them before you get out in the rooms, because they may actually go away once you're out there. And just trying to see.
While Kurt is setting up Zoom, just a clarification, we are going to break you out in breakout rooms, and the topic is, it would be great if you can choose one of the leadership groups who care about, money and these other things you mentioned, and let's discuss, what approach we can take and what things we can prevent, things to obtain what they want, what are the blockers they would like to they are facing, and things we should do. That's the topic of discussion. And Kurt, do you have the room set up?
Yeah, the rooms are set up now. Finally found out what Zoom has done this time. So we'll take 10 minutes, and then I'll bring you back here after 10 minutes. So let's just see it's okay. This is the most convoluted user interface on the planet, but
and it's changing every month.
Yeah.
Let's go to the rooms.
You cut me off mid-sentence, Kurt, but I love you so much, I'm going to forgive you.
Oh, well, that's, I mean, love can hide a multitude of sins.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is.
It's a love-hate relationship there.
No. Okay. Yep, we're back, and I would be interested if there are any of the 4 rooms that have something they would like to tell the rest of us, something interesting you talked about, discovered, probably figured out that we were not right in our assessment, but please go ahead to those of you who have something.
I can start. We were discussing like the types of the executives, and for example, probably I just thought that maybe the most like popular type of the company, it's a kind of follower. Yeah, it's not an innovator, which means that it's a how to say, it's called staying out of trouble. Yeah. So, and we were just I was thinking how to present the Agile to the staying out of trouble category of executives. And we were just thinking that it's a kind of pretty hard. And one of the members of our team told that it's probably worth starting with their goals. But the thing is that they may not have their goals, or they are not transparent. And you mentioned that these companies who are staying out of trouble are not transparent. So probably then it's will be, very hard to approach them with this Agile. And my own thought, which I was not able to share because we were short of time, I just thought that probably if they are not telling the goals, probably we can ask them about challenges, or again, like marketers, what are your pain points here? And maybe that's how we can break the ice.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Very good. Any others?
Yeah, from our breakout room, a few very good thoughts. We had Stuart joining us, and that he came in with what's in it for you on these dark bastards we have here. So you have to figure out what's in for them and try to to make some kind of how can it benefit you based on what they are measured and their KPIs and stuff like that. And Christian also has a very good point. If they are really an asshole, leave them.
Yeah.
So you are wasting your time, simply.
Yeah, we used to say
That,
with
we had some more points, but that was two of them at least.
The end essence of it. Okay, very good. Robert, you were saying?
Yeah, I was just adding to the next point that we used to say with a friend of mine that you cannot save everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other input?
But was that because we don't like safe? You say that, or?
I must add, René, that Diana also made it clear that a lot of times it's just a case of trying to find out what is the problem. Why do this person behave this way? Why is it? Are they assholes or can they be helped? And I think that's a good point. Because quite often I tend to think, okay, they're assholes, I'm leaving here, but sometimes they can't be saved.
Yeah, and Diana also had the good point that if you have the chance to make a reference who actually made some agile and bring them into the company and try to reduce they are not so they are uncertain what's going on. So handle that uncertainty could be then done with a good reference.
Yep.
From Diana. Yeah.
Great. Others contribute? Well, it's a big topic, and as I started by saying that it's really not the case that we know how you should do this. We are exploring here, but we're also finding that as a business, it's a necessity for us to work with this in the same way that it's that you have to figure out how to address your customers in a sense. And if we're going to move above the team level into the corporate level with the agile lean thinking of sorts, well, we come into a different territory. And if we can't actually present the value proposition to those people, we will never get any business in there, whether we are consultants or academia or anybody else. So Robert mentioned also, quoting from the input from last night, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And well, that's not so unusual, because any investment is painful in the beginning. Whether that's an investment in money terms and building something, or is trying to lose weight, it's kind of painful in the beginning, and rewards come later. And so that's not so unusual. But the unusual thing is that, as Robert also pointed out, quoting Jan Frederick, was that, well, people have a tendency to sort of expect immediate results now, and instant gratification. In that sense, it's like a 4-year-old. I mean, they want it now. I think personally that is because in the early days, when we started introducing teams and agile teams and Scrum and so on, there were actually situations where we got instant result. And that was simply because the teams were so lousy to start with that more or less anything you did would improve. So as soon as we showed some respect to the team and listened to them and did retrospectives and actually solved some of their problems, they totally blossomed, and it was very, very impressive. However, as you move up in the organization, it's not that simple anymore, because there are some things that this little group, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people, just intuitively can figure out. That doesn't work necessarily in the organization. So coming up to the top of the hour, I just want to sort of roll this off and give you a couple of takeaways that also, some of them came from last night, sort of slightly rephrased. The originators may think I have obfuscated them, but let's see. Some takeaways. we really have to demonstrate the potential upside to executives. Remember, everybody reacts at least twice as strongly to the prospect of a loss as to the opportunity of a gain. If you can still see my camera, I mean, here's our old friend Kahneman and his cognitive biases, and this is one of them. We simply do that, and therefore the explanation of the value has to be extremely good in order to compete with the risk of getting it wrong, especially for those who just want sort of the Chamberlain style piece in our time. Address the intangible elements, and some of them is status really connected to being able to give orders. I've come across that a couple of places, and it was never said out loud, but it was clear that the status in the group depended on who could give the orders. And that's a hard thing to get away with. The uncertainty of the future, that should definitely give us a strong case for looking for better maneuverability and resilience. And the world is complex, only fragmented knowledge, and we have to organize for it. We heard about attracting talent, and what is that? Well, that is basically we secure engagement. In some of our other sessions, we've talked about the research from Gallup that proves that engagement is low right now worldwide. The 77% of the workforce is disengaged. And of those, 18% are actively disengaged, hanging out at the water cooler, spreading messages opposite to where we should go. And actually, it affects every single number you could possibly think of measuring. So engagement is really a key here. And what you can offer executives, and I became aware of that. We were quoting here Jan Fredrik from PwC in Oslo. We have a strategic alliance with Pricewaterhouse in Oslo, where we from Agile support them in bringing this to their customers. We're very happy with that arrangement. But one of the things that they have taught us is you have to be able to measure those things. You have to be able to quantify what, okay, so do we actually have more engagement? Can we measure that one way or another? Do we have learning? Do we have improvement? We have to be careful about showing to people that yes, they can have something here. Most of us that are not upstairs, like me, for example, really need an alley to get in. Otherwise, we don't get in. They don't listen to people like us normally. It's just out of habit, not necessarily bad will. Another thing I'd like to give you as an idea, Robert and I are currently doing a campaign on LinkedIn together with a Polish company. And we're quite impressed with how they have managed to get a lot of contacts on LinkedIn to respond to our connection request and to our messages by coming in through the angle of asking a question. May I ask you a question? Are you involved in so and so? So maybe there's a way, it's certainly something I want to explore in the weeks to come. Is there a way where we can connect to, talk to executives by asking questions? It has been mentioned a couple of times, both in the US and the Czech Republic, maybe the brand Agile is actually worn. People have misused it. So sometimes we talk about just lean or responsive or sustainable or resilient, if that has a negative connotation. If you find the following in a company, probably leave quickly. And I would say if you come into a company and you're trying to do this and you find out that there's almost a watertight compartment between upstairs and downstairs, separation of command and control, separation of thinking and doing, and that's hard. I mean, we must be able to find some easier food here. I mean, there are certain games that are too hard to play. And I would also say an executive from the dark side of the force who's really only in it for himself, and we've already touched on that one. And then if you come into a place where the executives have extreme demands of predictability, quite often that is either people of the legal persuasion or economists who think that, yes, we can plan everything. It must be predictable, all of it. And also, if there are executives that are risk averse in the extreme, I would say that there is a risk when you do something new here. And Jan Frederick said that last night also, that we can't hide that fact. There is a risk in it. So I'd like to switch gear a little bit and just say, if you have different worldviews, if you really, I am convinced of the values here. I speak to a person who are not convinced of those. In fact, he thinks that he must exercise command and control in order to get anything done or something. How do you argue your case? The first thing is, and I admit to have been guilty in that, you have to start with respect and civility. You have to, this is also a person, this is a person who probably have good reasons for his views, and instead of just sort of rolling your eyes and looking up towards heaven, what kind of idiots are I'm among here, respect and civility. Try to get inside their worldview and understand what really concerns them, and argue from there. It's not helpful just to push our own perspective. That's what we see in politics these days, most of all in the US, I would say, with complete, almost inability to talk together on the two extremes. And we don't want that. I mean, it doesn't bring us anywhere. And then you, as it's been said before, have to be absolutely clear on your value proposition. You really need to know what is it gives you. And then perhaps you can come in and show them how the old worldview is inconsistent with what they want to achieve. And that is normally something that gets people to consider changing. If you can show them that whatever it is, whether it's psychological investigations or research that has shown that if you do this, you have that effect on people or something, then that could be. In order to change worldview, someone said, the one about to change must believe in the facts supporting the new worldview, including the value proposition. They must believe that it is true. So we can't just go sort of fluffy-duffy, warm and fuzzy feelings. They must really believe that the facts are real. They must see the results somewhere in the lives and testimony of other people or organizations, and they must want the benefits, and they must outweigh the risks. So what we promote, we call it the Agile Lean organization, or lately we've begun to call it the constitutional organization, actually inspired by Professor Timothy Snyder from Yale, who gave a talk on Ukrainian history, and he talks about the constitutional, and that's countries. He talks about where there is the rule of law and not the law of the ruler. And so in such an organization, we have negotiated agreements of collaboration, not top-down directives. Authority pushed to where the information is, not the other way around. Representative and consultative decision-making, not imperial directives. And psychological safety and trust over fear and control. Leadership as a service, as opposed to a privilege. We've often talked about Stanley McChrystal, and I don't think everybody thinks he's just a nice guy. He was probably a tough cookie as well, but he wrote about his experience in Iraq 20 years ago when he was sent and he had to organize this coalition force totally different, upside down. And he said, at the tender age of 50, I had to change my behavior from being the chess master moving people around to being...
At that time in sets, Baron Software did the animation, and it was very complex.
Yeah, from being the chess master to being the gardener, preparing the soil for people to develop. And especially this last question here, of course, it's a bit sensitive because we are now entering an ethical domain. As leaders, are we really willing to assume a servant role, or do we crave to be center stage? And from time to time, there are people who have to sort of bite the bullet and realize, okay, I better step down from this and and then I can create another environment. And with that, I'd like to stop really. I'd like to show you this one, but I won't talk it through because it's almost 8 o'clock. If anybody hangs around, we can talk about it later. But we made a sort of a variation on the lean canvas with actually for ourselves to prepare to talking to different leadership type. What is the leadership type we're talking to? What is it they want? What is our unique value proposition? If we meet them in the elevator, what are we going to slam them with and just try to get their attention? What is the solution? How do we reach them? I mean, do we simply have to gate crash elevators, or how do we actually get to them? What are the costs of doing this and the values that we can reap? What are the key metrics we can offer them to see that we're actually progressing and not just gambling with the whole company? And why is it we can do it in the end? A variation of the lean canvas, which we really find helpful. Yeah, coming to the end, I'd like to give you a link. Let's just see. If you want to, and here's a link to a form. I'll put it in the mail as well. And because we're very much interested in developing this topic and having more conversations about it. If you have some input on what you would like us to touch upon for our next meetup here, we're trying to collect some input. There's a simple little form where you can come up with some ideas, and we'll try and pick them up. So far, it's scheduled for somewhere in October. So
did you put anything in the chat here, or?
I did. Oh, it has another little feature in Google, that is, if anybody has sent some direct message, then it assumes we'll send to him. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Yes, you can.
All right. I'll put it in the mail as well so it doesn't get lost. But apart from that, I think we will sort of wind down, so those people who can get on with their lives can do that. And we'll hang around for a little while if anybody wants to discuss. And is there any questions at the end that you would like to, or comments on whether this was useful or not? Or it's short. I know it's very short, but that's the format of these meetups, really.
I like the fact that we have these breakout rooms, and personally, I think we could have used more than 10 minutes. But does anyone have some feedback on that? How did it work for you? Was it okay?
It was nice and helpful, actually, and like something different than just listening quietly.
Yeah.
This was great, Kurt. Gave us a lot to think about. Also, gave me back some, hey, I'm not so crazy after all. It's always a good thing.
Good. That's good, yeah.
It's always good.
Yeah, so we won't commit you right away to a close place.
Thank you. Thank you.
But there are, as Paul normally says, there are more out than there's in. Okay, and again, if you have further comments or things you want to discuss, drop us an email about it. We've set up also a calendar where you can book meetings if you want to have a conversation about some of these topics.